Hello and welcome to another problem-solving exercise. In this particular position, it's black to move, and we're asked if black is better, equal, or worse. And we're asked if black's best move is the obvious bishop c8, or if he has another move instead. So there's some obvious practical considerations here. The bishop on g4 is hit by the pawn on f3, and the pawn on b7 is hit by the knight on a5, and bishop c8 is the only move that defends against both of those. On the other hand, bishop c8 is a retreating move and it undevelops, and a serious concern for black here is that he's behind in development. Admittedly, white has quite a few pieces out of play at the moment as well, but black's rooks and king and knight are not contributing, and he'd rather not take one of his two developed pieces out of play. Another observation is that this is sort of a typical exchange Ruy Lopez position, and black has a doubled pawn, which is often an issue in the endgame as his pawn structure is less healthy and less able to create a passed pawn than white's, but in return he has the two bishops, and so that offers some long-term compensation. So, if we're not entirely thrilled with bishop to c8, we should at least consider other ideas. One idea, I guess, would be pawn to b6, but that seems pretty ludicrous. And the reason I say that is that, if nothing else, after capturing this bishop and capturing on a5, although white has compromised his pawn structure slightly, black has really wrecked his pawn structure on the queen side with two doubled isolated pawns, and just in principle I can't believe that that's very viable. What else? Let's see. It's conceivable that black doesn't have to defend the pawn on b7, but that seems unlikely. But I do see another idea here. Castling seems like the idea that we're looking for. And so after castling, we defend the pawn on b7, we get our king out of the way, and we get our rook to the center. And if we castle, now if white takes the bishop, then we have bishop take h2 check. And after king takes, rook takes d1, because we've discovered an attack on the rook, then we have a fantastic game. Even though we did give up two pieces for the rook, it looks like, well, obviously white's pieces are tied down along the first rank, and his knight on a5 seems misplaced, so this seems like it should be good. Castles, pawn takes, bishop takes, king takes, rook takes. I am noticing, though, that white would be able to consider knight c3 at the end of all of that, and that knight would attack the rook on d1 and would uncover the rook's defense of the bishop. And so after that, white or black might play the rook over one square, and in this position I think that I like black a little bit. It's still kind of hard for white to deal with his issues, although if he wanted he could just play rook to b1, and then next turn he could move the bishop out and allow an exchange. But I still think that this offers some interesting play for black. Also, he has the idea of h5, which could immediately get the other rook into the game and open up on the king on h2. That seems appealing. And the knight coming out to h6 will attack a weak pawn on g4. I think that this is good for black. The other thing to think about is that after castling, white could try rook take d6 and then a capture on g4. But here, after white captures that rook back, then pawn take g4 allows rook check, king up, rook takes c1, and black has come out with a winning advantage. So I think the easiest move is castle. It's the most natural move. It's the move that you want to play, and the tactics justify playing that here. And after castling, I think that black is better because I like the bishops and the knight on a5 is suddenly offsides as it's no longer able to create useful threats. It could come back in with knight c4, and it probably should at some point, but first we do have to defend against that discovery. So maybe something like knight c3, and then maybe bishop e6 is a natural continuation, and I think black's doing great. Ugh. Well, I forgot that the authors are very, very tricky people and that chess is a tricky game, and I was entirely wrong about castling queenside. The trick works if white captures on g4, then you're doing very well. But unfortunately, the move e5 completely kills black's trap. Both bishops are now hanging, and after capturing the pawn on e5, then the bishop on g4 just goes with no compensation at all. Because of that, you really do have to play bishop c8, and white is a fair bit better in that position. Completely missed the move 2e5 in this position, a very nice trick for white.